One entire family, 10 souls, standing on a soft sand mound, in the middle of a calm river, smiling, laughing, taking pictures, unaware that the ground beneath them was slowly, silently slipping away. No warnings, no screams, just eyes watching their loved ones, one by one, disappear beneath the water. No one could hold on, no one could pull back. Hands reached, but only emptiness answered. Can you imagine what that mother felt as her children vanished in front of her? What that father carried in his heart, watching his wife drift away helpless? What that family must have gone through when they realized it wasn't just water, it was death. Today I bring you that story. True story, not from the past, but from just days ago. A story that doesn't just belong to Pakistan. It belongs to all of us, to anyone who's ever loved, lost, or taken nature for granted. Hello friends, I'm your host Sara, and today's story is unlike anything you've heard before. It was June 18, 2025. A big family from Punjab had just arrived in Swat, a beautiful northern region of Pakistan. Lush green hills, clear skies, and the soothing sound of the Swat River. It was picture perfect. They had rented a van, packed homemade food, toys for the kids, and even brought matching clothes for group pictures. Cousins, uncles, aunts, grandparents, nearly 18 people, all together, all smiling. They stopped near a popular riverside area, where the water was shallow and calm. It's common there. People walk down to the riverbed to click photos and feel the cool water under their feet. The Swat River that day looked like a peaceful mirror. The children ran barefoot onto the sand patches, the soft, hill-like dunes of river silt that form inside the river during dry season. Adults followed. They stood on those mounds, clicked selfies, took videos, and laughed. One young woman even did a twirl in her red dress, her sister recording it. They didn't know those soft sand hills were made of unstable earth. And they didn't know that high above, in the clouds and mountains, something had just shifted. Suddenly the sky made a sound. Rumble. Like thunder, but deeper. One of the cousins looked up. Did you hear that? Another laughed. Probably thunder. But it wasn't. Miles away, lightning had struck the mountains. A chunk of snow, a massive ice slab, broke loose and crashed into a hidden glacier stream. Within seconds, water rushed down like a beast untied. Had started to rain too. Not just drizzle, but hard, heavy rain. And when mountain water meets river water during rain, it doesn't warn, just arrives. Sara's narration deepens. In less than 10 minutes, the same river they were standing in changed shape. It wasn't calm anymore. It was coming for them. One elder in the family said, "Let's get back up." They began climbing off the sandy hills, holding hands. But the water came faster, stronger, angrier. The youngest child, a boy of about 7, slipped. His father jumped forward to grab him. He held on. Another woman screamed as she tried to lift her toddler. The sand beneath their feet was dissolving, and the river was rising. Sara closes part 1 with, they had come to the river to capture joy. But the river had other plans. What happened next was witnessed only by the water, and the few who survived it. Sara's voice, soft but heavier now. The clouds were not dark. The weather didn't warn them. The water looked calm. But the mountain had already broken. They say nature whispers before it roars. But that day, the whisper came from above. A lightning strike, miles away in the mountains, had shattered a thick layer of ice. It slammed into a hidden glacier stream, and sent water roaring down like a silent avalanche. And while the family laughed below, in the Swat riverbed, a monster was forming above them. Back at the river, the family sensed something. The wind changed. The air felt different. The sand beneath their feet felt moist. Their laughter started to slow down. A cousin said, "It's raining in the mountains, should we head up?" An uncle replied, "Just a few more minutes." A few more minutes. were more than enough. The water arrived, not like a wave, but like a crawling hand. First it was ankle deep, then it wrapped around their legs, and then it began to run. The first to panic was a child. He screamed as the sand began to dissolve under his feet. His father grabbed him. Another cousin slipped and fell face first. The family tried to climb back up the riverbank, but the sand hills they had stood on were not hills anymore. They were sinking. Sara continues. One by one they tried to hold each other, but the river had no hands to hold back. Only pull. Only drag. The rain above had intensified the flood. From above, it looked like a canvas turning gray. People, once dots of color, now scattered, moving, slipping, calling for help. One girl tried to climb onto a sand mound. Her brother pushed her up, but as she turned to grab his hand, he was already under. A mother held her twin daughters close. She was heard saying, "Don't move, just stay with me." But the sand cracked below her. They were gone. A man shouted, "Hold the rope," but there was no rope. Another woman screamed her son's name. No answer. Someone tried to use a selfie stick to pull a cousin closer. It broke in two. Sara's tone slows. In less than 3 minutes, the family became silent. The river had taken them, and left only 4. 2 of those survivors were rescued by a stranger, a local man who owned a tiny wooden boat. He risked his own life fighting the current, pulling 2 unconscious bodies onto the boat. He said later, "I don't know how I managed to reach them. I just rowed toward the screams. But by the time I got there, the screaming had stopped." Sara's voice is slower now, filled with grief. When we read about tragedies, we see numbers. 18 people lost in Swat flood. But those weren't numbers. They were names. They were parents, siblings, children. And none of them thought their last photo would be taken that day. The water had finally calmed, but not because it showed mercy. It had taken what it came for. And now, the silence felt heavier than the flood. Emergency teams arrived. The same sand mounds that once held laughter now held nothing, just abandoned shoes. A red scarf tangled in driftwood. A floating doll with one missing eye. A rescuer was seen crying. He whispered, "We are pulling out children now, one by one." One man stood knee-deep in water, holding his wife's body in his arms. Her hair soaked, her bangles still jingling. He didn't speak. He just rocked back and forth like she might wake up. A teenage boy screamed at the river, "Why didn't you take me too?" Another man found only a slipper, and knew it was his daughter's. Sara's voice breaks slightly. They didn't die because of a storm. They died because joy turned blind. The same river that gave them peace took their breath, piece by piece. The survivors, 4 in total, were taken to the hospital. 2 were unconscious. 1 couldn't speak. 1 kept asking for his mother, even though she had died holding his hand. The rescuer, the man with the wooden boat, stayed silent. He refused all interviews. He later said to a reporter, "It wasn't bravery. It was guilt. Because I couldn't save more." Funerals began across Punjab in the days that followed. Teen graves, 18 homes in mourning. 1 woman collapsed on her husband's coffin. She had lost him. And 3 children. All in one wave. She whispered, "Tell me how I breathe now." Sara speaks directly to the audience. If you're watching this from a place of comfort, remember they were just like you. They laughed. They joked. They wanted a memory. And now, they've become one. Photos from that day were never posted. Videos remained in phones that sank. The memories they wanted to create turned into warnings. Sara ends part 3 with, "They came for the perfect picture, but they left behind a perfect storm. And a river that now knows their names." Sara's voice, quiet, almost whispering. 4 people survived. But the story doesn't end with them. It ends with what the river left behind, and what it took forever. In the days that followed, Swat returned to its usual rhythm. Tourists came again. Children played by the banks. The river flowed quietly. But for the families, the ones who returned home with fewer people than they left with, time didn't move. 18 funerals were held. 18 names were called out in mosques, one after the other. Each name felt like a knife, cutting the hearts of those left behind. One uncle, who had stayed back in Punjab due to illness, said, "When I opened the door, it wasn't just silence that entered. It was absence. My son's laughter gone. My niece's voice gone." A local resident in Swat later planted 18 small trees near the river. He placed a wooden board nearby. It said, "They smiled here. Let them be remembered here." This was not a war, not an accident. This was nature, and a reminder that we are never stronger than it. No photo, no moment, is worth risking a life. Tourists are still coming, still walking into shallow waters for the perfect shot, still climbing those soft sand mounds. Most don't know what happened there, but maybe after this story, some will. This is not a call for fear. This is a call for respect. Respect nature. Respect signs. Respect warnings. Because rivers don't kill people. Ignoring them does. Lost not in darkness, but in daylight. Their names may fade from headlines, but the river remembers. I usually tell you stories from old rooms, forgotten houses, abandoned pasts. But this story came from the present, from a place with Wi-Fi, with tourists, with music and cameras. And yet no one saw it coming. If this story moved you, share it, not for views, but for value. And if you ever stand at the edge of a river, take a step back, because the memory you want isn't worth becoming one.